Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Upper Tier Podcast, and it is Monday Mashup. We will be reviewing all the Premier League action from the weekend. We will be previewing the midweek stuff in the Premier League. We'll also be taking a look at a fascinating FA Cup semi-finals and a final to look forward to as well. We'll be discussing that in a bit of detail. We'll be bringing you some of the latest gossip from the papers. We'll be talking about Stellini being sacked. We'll be talking about Aubameyang, the main target for Barca this summer. Lots of stuff to get through, some interesting stuff. So stay with us for the evening as you can. We'll be here for approximately about an hour, going through everything. As always, if you could subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, and of course, like on the video to help us grow things. Anything you want to talk about as well, you can drop it into the chat. But plenty to talk about. We've got a full list of stuff here, but anything you want me to discuss or anything you want to throw my way, just let me know. I think we'll start with the FA Cup, will we? Absolutely fascinating. But we started off, obviously, Man City on the Saturday winning 3-0 against Sheffield United. Made it reasonably easy work. I know Sheffield United had one early chance, but fairly easy for Man City running out winners in the end. Mahrez with a hat-trick, absolutely outstanding. And the one thing I picked up on when he made all those substitutions as well was like he was able to just, the camera went to the bench and you looked at the bench after all the substitutions and who was there, Haaland and Grealish and all these great players and stuff that you were there going, they really have some squad, don't they? Pep really has done a serious job there, squad-wise. It was unbelievable. But they ghosted through Man City, and then came the one that probably wasn't as predictable. We did say it could be a tight one, and I had predicted on the Thursday tier talk that it might go to penalties. I was expecting Brighton to see the penalties through with Man United's history of penalty shootouts in the FA Cup. Greg, one of the lads over WhatsApp, you'll know from on the slab and on Retrotainment with Ted, of course, who does be in the chat as well, had mentioned to me that United had never won an FA Cup penalty shootout, apparently. So, yeah, so the odds were against them, but they did come through. Of all the guys to miss for Brighton, Solly Marsh definitely wasn't expected. I was expecting him to slot it home. He's a super footballer. He was not one I was expecting to miss. And then, of course, up stepped Victor Lindelof, of all the guys to pick to go up and take a clutch penalty. And boy, did he take a clutch penalty, put it right up into the top right corner. Keeper had no chance. United going through 7-6 on penalties to set up an absolutely fascinating FA Cup final. And with Man City at the moment, all the talk of this treble and they look like they're in good form in the Champions League. They look like they might have Arsenal's number in the league. But is this the last chance saloon? Does it come down to this, that Manchester United are trying to stop City completing the treble and matching them from 99? So it is fascinating on so many levels, and it'll be even more fascinating, especially if City do wrap up the league and where to win the Champions League, then the treble will be on, and it will be down to, it'll be in United's hands to stop them repeating that history, which would be absolutely fascinating. But it's a Manchester derby for the FA Cup final. It's going to be exhilarating, that's for sure. Don't forget, folks, the QR code is there on the slide. So if you want to follow us on TikTok, there's shorts and videos going out there now every day. Hit up the TikTok. It's a good crack out there and stuff like that. Redbird's in the comments. How are you, Redbird? Thanks for dropping in. Dare we dream we will see Jude wearing the number 8 for us. Yeah, lots of talk coming out about that now, isn't it? Very, very interesting in the way it might evolve. Sounds like Jude Bellingham wants Liverpool, and it sounds like he's putting the pressure on Dortmund now to get back around the table with Liverpool to figure something out. So let's see what happens. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. Listen, I'll tell you one thing, Redbird, I'm really enjoying that conversation more than people telling me that Mount is nearly a done deal. Good Lord, if that was to happen, I'd be pretty disappointed in a big way. Don't want that to happen at all. City will slap Arsenal up big time, but Scum United will win the FA Cup in Redbird's opinion. Yeah, you reckon they'll stop them? Do you reckon it could be? Do you reckon that could be the one that stops the treble, Redbird? Do you? Yeah, I think City. I looked at Arsenal there the other night and we'll of course talk about it. What a game on Friday night it was to start out the weekend. And if you're a neutral, you can sit back and it's all good and you can relax and you can enjoy it. I suppose as Liverpool fans this season, we can probably sit back and relax and enjoy it anyway, because our expectation basically is in the gutter at this stage. We know we're not really playing for anything. And because of that result yesterday with Spurs and Newcastle, it looks like top four now would be a real stretch. 9 points in it, 7 games to go. And the way these teams are playing, it's highly unlikely that would happen. So we're probably staring down the barrel potentially of Thursday night football. So nothing to write home about. We can just sit back and chill and watch everything unfold and let's see what happens. But I don't know about you, Redbird, but I can feel for Arsenal fans at the moment, whether you're a fan or not, but as a neutral in that title race, I can feel, because we've been there, we've felt that, we've felt their breath on the back of our necks and chasing them and all that kind of stuff, and it's so difficult. And now Arsenal fans, depending on what way it goes, will now fully understand just how difficult it is to win a league off this Man City side. It is tough going and not for the faint-hearted. And I looked at that game on Friday night. Martinelli, of course, with the goal. Odegaard as well laid on, and Saka in the 90th minute to equalise. Alcaraz putting Southampton ahead. And of course, the guy I predicted, I was talking to Warren on Warren's Team Talk on his Instagram, and I was saying, wouldn't it be just the way it goes that Theo Walcott will pop up and get a goal? And of course he did. Took it lovely as well. And Caleta Carr as well on 66. So it was 3-3. The draw kind of didn't do either of them really any good. Southampton, I think, still rooted to the bottom. But look, this is how it is, you know. But I suppose you could look at it in one way, that it was good to come back from defeat. But when it's the bottom team in the table, and look, as Liverpool fans, we've been there all season, dropping points to those bottom teams, so we know. But in such a pivotal moment in Arsenal's season, who have played so well all season long, and it comes down to these last 6, 7, 8 games, whatever it is. Basically, it comes down to Wednesday night, doesn't it, when you think about it? Because I would think if City get the business done on Wednesday, they'll just kick on, they'll just push on, and Arsenal will just struggle to come to terms with that then, you know. So, but we'll see what happened. It's not all lost yet. It's still in both teams' hands, I would say. Let's see what happens. Redbird, loved watching Newcastle slap Spurs. They play some nice football. They do play some nice football, absolutely. They looked really well yesterday, actually. But Spurs are just all over the place. And of course, later on, we'll talk about Stellini getting sacked. It was a madness today. It's mad how these shows unfold when you're creating podcasts and stuff like that. I had put up a short to say that Stellini, the board were reviewing his position. And within an hour of that going up, I was back on again. Stellini sacked. It's mad, but we knew it was coming. Like, it was crazy. And look, we'll talk about it later, because it's Spurs again, being Spursy, creating history as they do. So we'll see how that goes. Morris is in. Missed my Chelsea fix this week. We have a few bits in there, Morris. Don't worry. We won't let you down. No need to panic. We didn't play as well as we can against Forest, but I enjoyed the game, to be honest. Yeah, my son was over there, Ben. He was over at the game. He was sitting just above the Forest fans at the Annie Road end, and he said it was electric. And I have to say, hats off to the Forest fans. Brilliant with the banners and all that kind of stuff about the hate chants and the tragedy chants and all that kind of stuff. And of course, respect for the 97 as always. Really do like Nottingham Forest as a club. A lot of respect for Nottingham Forest. And then we are bad, but how the hell are Spurs above us? It baffles me. They got off to a decent start. They went through a series, Redbird, of games where it was kind of win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. So every month they were picking up 6 or 9 points. So that's how they find themselves where they were. I mean, because they didn't play. Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. They'll be back playing this week. Don't worry, we'll be going through it. Let's go through our Premier League then. Results. And of course, we start off, as we said, Arsenal 3, Southampton 3. Arsenal players looked very dejected at the end of that game on the ground. And do you know, Redbird, do you know what it reminded me of? And I'm sure it'll have reminded you that draw we got against Crystal Palace that time with Suarez on the pitch in tears with the jersey up, and Gerrard telling the cameraman to go away and stuff like that. It was very, very similar to that as well. And we know then how it played out, you know. yeah, that's the feeling that I got from it then when I was looking and I was going, those players, they don't fancy this at all. Fulham then, lunchtime on Saturday, Fulham beat Leeds. Took 3 goals by Fulham because Palhina got an OG for Leeds. The 3-3 game, yeah, remember that too. Yeah, absolutely, Morris and Redbird. Uncle Albert, who was a legend in a lot of our chats, was at Anfield, and he said Hendo was way worse than what we seen on TV. No surprise. Absolutely no surprise at all. I wonder is he checking out, or I wonder has he been told something or something like that. But I mean, he's had a poor season all around by his standards. I mean, tell me 4 or 5 Jordan Henderson moments this season. You know what I mean? And that's our captain. So no surprise at all. Yeah, Morris saying he remembers that game. Yeah, Suarez was in tears. It was unbelievable. I was actually, I can't tell you the story. I'll tell you another time, but I have a real good story about that game. If you want, hit me up. Hit me up on Twitter and I'll DM you the story. It's absolutely hilarious. He supports Arsenal, Redbird. He's a Gowner. He supports Arsenal. But let's go down through it then. Yeah, Fulham picking up a big win against Leeds. Leeds in serious trouble at the moment when you look at the table, in absolute free fall. And again, another team as well. When you looked when we played them as well, they just looked absolutely out of ideas. Really, really struggling. Brentford looked like they were kind of going to get back to winning ways. They've really been struggling the last few weeks to get results. I think it all started with the United game where they looked really poor against United, looked bang average, looked tired, worn out, and nosebleeded like from the dizzy heights of where they were and stuff like that. So they've been really struggling. But Ivan Toney struck on 65 to put them ahead against Aston Villa. I did expect Villa to pick up the win here. I think Darren was the same on the Thursday tier talk. We expected Villa to get the win, but that it would be tight. But Aston Villa, late gasp, 87-minute goal by Douglas Luiz to rescue a point for Aston Villa. And at one stage, we had gone above Villa in the table with our result. And then when they snatched that draw, they went above us again. We were above them on goal difference, and then they got that point. But yeah, it was a tense enough game, that one. Crystal Palace versus Everton 0-0. Not a game I expected to end 0-0. I wasn't expecting a load of goals in it, because Everton can really blunt out a game. Even when you're flying high and you're scoring goals, we've seen it in the past. But this wasn't really a great game. Palace 0, Everton 0, and again a game that kind of Everton, I think, dropped into the bottom 3 because of this result. So really, really struggling from their point of view. Next up was Leicester. Leicester getting a big win against Wolves, 2-1. Again, a result that I didn't expect. I thought Wolves were going to take it. But Kuhn put Wolves ahead on 13 minutes. And then Iheanacho equalised with a penalty on 37. And then Castagna took the winner on 75. But that's a big win. That was a huge win for Leicester, especially in the relegation battle. Not safe yet, but still very, very helpful to get a win like that, and especially against a team that's down in there and around them and stuff like that. So it was a massive win for Leicester. Liverpool then, of course, winning 3-2 against Nottingham Forest. A game that should have been much easier work made. Very, very hard work by Liverpool again. I can't understand it at times how we make such hard work of these games. First half was absolutely pathetic. Not at it at all. Disjointed, giving the ball away. Created very little. The main one was probably Jota at the back post. Should have scored that one, to be honest. Then went ahead just after half time on 47, Jota with a goal, and then on 55 as well. 2 really lovely goals. The first one that he finished was a real nice one, and then the header in off Fabinho as well was a nice take as well. Neco Williams fired back on 51 to make it 1-1, and then we went 2-1 ahead. Then Gibbs White equalised on 67, and then Salah on 70 got the winner. To make it 3-2, but we got out of there. We were under a lot of pressure at the end there. Brennan Johnson had a great chance to draw level with us and just missed it, but they had a number of chances there. Kanate, bad day at the office, all over the place at the back. Trent was probably our man of the match, covered every blade of grass. Jota took his goals, lovely. Made a couple of interesting changes as well. Took off Fabinho and brought on Thiago, and then we kind of lost the whole midfield battle. I spoke about it in the match reaction and stuff like that, and then Forrest really got a foothold in the game. I think what happened was Jordan dropped back into the six, and we know he's not a six. He's horrific as a six, barely makes an eight, but horrific as a six. He's definitely not a DM. And they just controlled the midfield then and just kept, it was wave after wave coming at us. We did create a few chances ourselves, but really, really struggled once those substitutions were made. Redboard, I'm annoyed at the Gunners bottling. I prefer they win the league over cheating City. Yeah, good shout. And Joanna's in. How are you, Joanne? Hope you're having a good evening. Hope you had a nice weekend. Redboard, Cheapy, do you think you'll beat City? I think they will slap you up. I hope I'm wrong. Yes, just having the strength and depth, I'm afraid. Good showing from the lads. Take Haaland out of City, and we would have this title already. Yeah, it's not a bad point. That's a fair point in fairness, but I think they kind of score goals all over the park, don't they? If you look the other day as well, even against Sheffield United, 3 goals by Mahrez. Foden always chips in. Grealish has been doing more this season. Rodri in midfield has been scoring goals. Ake's been going up there, getting a couple as well, dare I say. Kevin De Bruyne, where he hasn't been as prolific goal-wise this season, certainly his assists have been really, really good. So they do have a lot of count. Julian Alvarez, lads, going under the radar, having a real good season at City. When he's come in, hasn't disappointed at all. Haven't you? Great point, Cheap Heat. But yeah, I just think the problem is, and this is the thing that we have to face up to, they do have Haaland, and that's going to be a problem, Redboard, yeah, Jota's first goal was class, yeah, absolutely. And I like the cheeky one as well. The cheeky one's a good one as well, but he took the first one beautifully. Saliba injury has derailed the defense. The cover is garbage. Yeah, similar. I mean, we have that problem as well, Morris. So there's a massive drop off from your first 11 to your bench. And that's why City can churn it out week in, week out, because the drop off isn't as big. You're taking off Haaland, you're bringing on Julian Alvarez, you're taking off Grealish, you're bringing on Foden. You might take off Rodri and you're bringing on Gundogan, or you're bringing on Bernardo Silva, or whatever it is. They've lots of choice there. And look at how good they've been shaping up at the back at times as well, because, they're literally playing 4 centre-backs at the back, you know what I mean? And it's amazing the strength and the depth that they have there, and it's the quality as well, you know what I mean? Like, you're not taking off Haaland and bringing on Alvarez and going, oh, I'm worried about that. There's no worry there. Alvarez comes in, puts the goals in. Yeah, Saliba's a real loss for you. It seems the stars are lining up for the cheaters. Yeah, it's definitely look, Redboard. We know. Look at the last 5 seasons. We've tried to hunt them down so many times, but of course we can beat them. Anyone can beat anyone in this league. The media are treating us like a Derby county. We're first. Absolutely, and that's the way people should be thinking about that. Yous are top of the league. Yous need to go out and perform and see where it takes you, and don't be worrying about what anyone else is doing. And let's see what happens. But I think if you look at it, if you look on the face of it, and you look at the way City are playing at the moment and the momentum that they have, turning out game after game after game, on the crest of a wave at the moment. And then you look at your last results where it's after dipping right down, and then you look at the body language of those players on Friday night. They were shot to bits, like you seen them sitting on the ground, really, really devastating. And 9 times out of 10 in a situation like that, you'd be going, that's a great point. We're after getting back there because we got away with it. We played so bad, But yeah, we'll see what happens. But Wednesday's going to be electric, absolutely electric. Let's finish out this review with the Sunday games. We have to, of course. Bournemouth getting absolutely slapped up by West Ham 4-0. they're starting to put some wins together now, isn't it? I think they scored 4 last weekend as well, and this is on the back of qualifying now. They're into the semi-final of the conference, as far as I know, and they made Alkmaar in the semi-final. They should have enough to get by them as well. So David Moyes could be bringing West Ham to a European final, a Europa Conference final. So pretty good going. Could be a big season for them, but they got to focus. But that was a big win for them in terms of the relegation situation at the moment. But goals from Antonio, Paqueta, Rice, and Fornals. Nice blend there as well. I always like that as well. If you do win 4-0 or you score 4 goals, I like it when it's 4 different players and stuff like that. It shows they've a bit about them and stuff like that, you know. Moyes keeping his job. Fair play to him. Yeah, there's talk though, even though what's happening there, he's turned it around the last few weeks and stuff like that in terms of the league. They were doing pretty well in Europe anyway. But there's talk that he might go anyway, Morris, I was reading, but I'm not too sure. We'll see what happens. Certainly, if he delivered a Europa League conference, he wouldn't be going anywhere, I would imagine. But yeah, it was nice to see him turn it around. Yeah, and he has the players there. West Ham are a good side. We're playing them on Wednesday night, so that should be interesting. But that was a big win for West Ham in terms of what was going on. And then, of course, we have to talk about the game of the weekend. I think, anyway, Newcastle absolutely committing murder on Spurs. 4-0 up or 5-0 up, was it, after 21 minutes? They got absolutely smashed. 2 from Jacob Murphy, 2 cracking goals as well. One that he snatched onto Lloris, palming it out into his path really, and he finished it off. And even looking at that, it wasn't an easy one to take, but he took it lovely as well. A lot of players just smashed down there, especially Jacob Murphy. I think so far, he had only got, was it 2 goals so far this season prior to the game yesterday as well. So it's not like he's been smashing them in, but he was full of confidence. Yes, they got 2 lovely goals. The other one, the long range one that he put away as well, Lloris had no idea, ruled it to the spot, was cracking. And then the one Joe Linton scored as well. They were all great goals. Isaac got 2 lovely goals as well, and Callum Wilson as well. But Harry Kane picking up a consolation on 49 as well, but 6-1. And of course, that led to the sacking of this man. As I said to you earlier, we put up a short saying he was being reviewed by the board, and the next thing, the news came out an hour later that he had been sacked. And as far as I know, that's the first time in the history of the Premier League that an interim manager has been sacked. So Spurs creating all these moments, as Daniel Levy would say, but certainly very, very interesting. Yeah, but what a hiding they took, and the capitulation, and then you look to the sideline and they're bringing on Davison Sanchez. They're bringing on the guy who they poured the hate all over the week before. So really, really crazy, that kind of stuff, you know. Eno's in. How are you, Eno? What's the crack? All good. Sorry I'm late. How you doing? I'm doing good, mate. No need to apologise. All good. And Morris Accord, record breaking Spurs. Yeah, absolutely. That Levy stuff, and even that talk, what was it, that talk with that Cambridge thing and all, where he turned around and says, I got into football because I wanted to make money or something like that, wasn't it? You can't beat this guy. It's unbelievable, the stuff he came out with, talking about Harry Kane getting a statue and the moments they've had over the last 5 years and all this kind of stuff. Absolute crazy stuff coming out from the man. He was, dare I say, he was reaching Todd Bowley levels this week with all the stuff he was coming out with. It was absolute madness. Right, let's get into a preview for this week, which should be interesting. And we are going to start off with Tuesday. We've got Wolves versus Palace. This is an opportunity for Palace at least to put daylight in terms of the relegation battle. Wolves still down there. Need to be real careful. But this should be an interesting game. Wolves versus Palace. What way do I see this going? Probably going to go for a draw. It's probably getting to that stage in the season now. Gives a shout out to everyone. Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. That's what I want to hear. Going to go for a draw with this one, a 1-1 draw. Aston Villa versus Fulham. Fulham still holding on to the hope of a European spot. Obviously, they've been poor in recent weeks. Picked up a good win against Leeds, of course. But they go to Villa Park. Not going to be an easy trip for them. I would expect Villa to get the win there. Villa, of course, still pushing potentially for a top 4, but certainly looking at trying to accumulate the points to guarantee a top 6 at least. But I would expect Villa to pick up the win there tomorrow evening against Fulham. And then Leeds versus Leicester, your relegation 6-pointer. This is a relegation derby, no doubt about it. I think Leeds versus Leicester. Again, do you know something? I think this is going to be a draw, and it isn't going to help either team. I think this whole relegation thing is going to come down to the last day. And I don't think anything's going to be decided, but I could see Leeds versus Leicester picking up a huge win the other day. Huge win. Not sure whether they can continue it or not, but I think Leeds versus Leicester. Leeds looking very poor as well. Looking like they're done, but let's see what happens. Leeds versus Leicester. I'm going to go for a score draw. Wednesday, Forest versus Brighton. Brighton again still pushing along nicely. They'll have to get over the disappointment of the FA Cup. Horrible way to go out, especially on penalties, and especially the boy Sully March as well. So the Serbi will have a big job picking them up for the trip to Forest. Forest, of course, will want to bounce back from the Liverpool game. Probably feel they should have deserved and got something out of the Liverpool game, but didn't. But certainly what they'll have to do is maybe put two halves together, similar to the second half against Liverpool. And if they can do that, they might get something out of this game, but they certainly need it as well. Down there in the relegation battle, and of course, Brighton pushing for European spots as well. So they'll be fired up and they'll want to make amends for the FA Cup. So this should be an interesting game. Really, really good. Chelsea versus Brentford is up next. Chelsea, of course, we know the problems that they're having at the moment. Just all over the place at the minute. But Brentford as well, their season is kind of stuttered as well. We're on course for 3 points the other day, but of course, coughing up the late goal to Villa. Douglas Luiz getting it, of course, pulled 2 off them. But they were having a real good season, but the last 5 or 6 weeks, they've really struggled. Like I said, since that United game, they look like they're just dead on their feet kind of thing. So this could be a game where Chelsea could pick up a win. So I'm going to forecast a Chelsea win here. I think be tight, probably 2-1 Chelsea. West Ham versus Liverpool. Again, West Ham will be looking to move further out of that relegation kind of fight. So they'll want to continue on the back of some great results. Liverpool down to West Ham, always a tough place for us to go. Always a real good match as well. Always a proper good old scrap as well. So we'll see how that goes. But Liverpool now can ill afford to drop any points. Anything less than a win, coasting all the way in for the rest of the season now, which means top 4 will be gone. To make up a 9-point gap over 7 games is really, really difficult, especially when the teams around you and above you, with the exception of Spurs, are playing really, really well and consistent. So it's going to be tough, but all we can do is play the games ahead of us and try and get the 3 points. So we'll be doing a preview for that game, folks, tomorrow at 7. And at 8 o'clock as well, you can catch me on Dynamo's Dozen. We'll be giving your weekly show, your weekly pro wrestling show. We'll be coming at you 8 o'clock tomorrow night on Dynamo's Dozen. So 7 o'clock, Liverpool or West Ham Liverpool preview. 8 o'clock, Dynamo's Dozen for pro wrestling. And then on Wednesday, we'll give you the match reaction, of course, to West Ham versus Liverpool. Be coming at you probably around 10 o'clock or so, whenever the games are finished. And then we round it out, of course, 8 o'clock on Wednesday with the big game, Man City versus Arsenal. Absolutely huge. To me, a title decider, but not quite a title decider. But I think it'd be very hard if Arsenal were to get beaten there and beaten comfortably. I think it'd be very, very difficult to stop Man City rolling through the way they're playing. And then Thursday, we've got a full week this week, guys. Thursday, then we have Everton versus Newcastle. Newcastle looking to cement their position in that top 4. Tough place to go, Goodison Park, but Everton really struggling this season down there in the relegation battle. They'll be looking to try and get some points on the board. I think the best they'll probably wish for on Thursday would be a draw. Can't see it happening the way Newcastle are playing at the moment. They're really finding their rhythm again. So it should be really, really good. Southampton versus Bournemouth. Southampton again were in serious trouble. But do you know something? I think Southampton are going to pick up that win on Thursday. I think Southampton will beat Bournemouth after getting the draw against Arsenal. I know they'll be disappointed that they didn't get the 3 points, but somewhat happy enough as well that they did get the point the way it all panned out, especially in that last, say, 15 minutes, including the 8 minutes of injury time. they'll be happy to have gotten out with a point to give them the hope. And I think they'll beat Bournemouth. Bournemouth the other day getting slapped up, I think, by West Ham, I think it was. I think they're going to struggle now to just see out the rest of the season. So Southampton, there could be points there for them. And again, if Southampton start picking up points, we're in for a fascinating relegation battle then. And then we rounded out then with the big one, Tottenham versus Man United. What are Tottenham going to do now? They sacked Stellini today. Who knows what's going to happen? Ryan Mason, talk of Nagelsmann, very interested in the job, but may not come in until the start of the season. Let's see what happens there. But I fully expect Man United now. I know it'll be tough coming back and stuff like that because the energy and stuff like that and the players that they have missing and stuff, but I expect them still to have enough to beat Tottenham. I think Tottenham at the moment are an absolute shambles. But let's see what happens. Tottenham will need to get a win to get back into that top four race. Of course, United will be looking for a win to cement their situation in the top four as well. They'd like to have that bit of a gap there. That's developing at the moment. It's 9 points between us and them anyway, so God knows with anyone else. But we know Brighton have a few games in hand and stuff like that as well. But United will be looking to pick up a big win there. I think United will probably beat them 2-1. What's the story? Morris and score draw, Wolves and Palace, I think. Good show, Ted. And Ian is thinking 2-1 Arsenal full time, 2-1 Arsenal to beat City, 2-1. Interesting. That would really put the cat amongst the pigeons then, wouldn't it? Be very interesting to see what happens then. A couple of little bits that came out today before we get into some of the paper talk. Of course, this was reported yesterday, the Arsenal women's team coming back from a Champions League game against Wolfsburg, I think it was, and they're playing Caught Fire. And only for a really quick thinking by the pilot, he was able to stop the plane, not take off, and evacuate the plane and stuff like that. So really, really lucky. God knows what might have happened if the plane had taken off. So there's a lot of luck there for that Arsenal women's team and stuff like that. So fair play, but yeah, absolutely scary times and stuff like that. The other news we got today, which was an interesting one, we did talk the other day about Bobby Firmino being linked with a move to Barcelona. It looks like there could be some sort of an agreement there. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Still think Bobby Firmino has a lot to offer, and I think Bobby Firmino could be a real star in La Liga if he goes in there with Barcelona. I wouldn't necessarily be telling him to go to Barcelona because we know that there's a lot of issues there as well to be resolved. Certainly in the finances and all that kind of stuff. They're literally selling off the crown jewels to get money in to keep above water and all that kind of thing. But apparently their main target at the moment is Aubameyang, and that'll be interesting. So let's see what happens there. He's top of the list. Bobby obviously is on the list as well. But let's see, this is a real conundrum, isn't it, for Barcelona, folks? Very hard to understand how they operate and how they do business. 1 minute they're kind of out of money. La Liga's moving in on them. Next minute they're just signing players willy-nilly. It's a very difficult situation to figure out what the hell is going on at Barcelona. We already spoke about Stellini being sacked. We don't need to go into any further. It was the obvious thing that was obviously going to happen. Without a shadow of a doubt, it was just the way they played yesterday, the line-up, the substitutions, everything. They've just been horrific. So he kind of had to go, but it's kind of embarrassing for Spurs that they sacked Conte. They had no plan in place. They kept him on. What difference was it going to make? I mean, their football nearly got more negative. It's with Spurs, it's an amazing one, isn't it? It's not like they don't have the players, but it's just when it goes bad, it goes really, really bad. Let's have a chat then about some stuff. We'll chat about some sort of paper talk and stuff like that. Shout out to my daughter Alexandra having her mug of tea. Absolutely big shout out to Alexandra. Hope you're enjoying the cup of tea. Hopefully Dad gave you a bicky or two to go with it as well. Hope it's not just a cup of tea. But shout out to Alexandra. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a little bit of, let's talk about what did just make the other day. Pep Guardiola. He was being asked about the treble, and he was saying he was sort of being questioned. He was saying, Man United, don't be scared about the treble and stuff like that. So was he kind of playing it down? But you could see the little smirk on him and stuff like that. He has his eye on creating history and stuff like that. And who would say it's not going to happen and stuff like that? Really dared at it, and it could easily happen. they're right at it and stuff like that. But I mean, the good thing, as I said, United are in the final of the FA Cup, so it's in their hands if they want to stop it. Klopp came out the other day after the game against Nottingham Forest, said that it ended in chaos. It absolutely did, and it shouldn't have. We should be better at controlling those games. I don't know what happened there. Talks have halted on Mikel Arteta's contract, apparently. And we know that we seen links last week there where he'd been linked to the Real Madrid job, which is an interesting conundrum with the Barcelona links. But he's also being monitored by PSG as well. So interesting. Mikel Arteta. Interesting times when you think of all the talk that comes out about him and stuff like that. That'd be an interesting one. Also reading the story came out this week, David De Gea, his future at Man United might be in doubt. Apparently he's unwilling to take a pay cut. That was a story that was coming out of Man United. Not too sure about that, but that was the story that came out. I suppose if he has a contract there, why would he take a pay cut and stuff like that? And apparently the pay cut that they're looking for is quite steep as well, could be close to 100 grand of a pay cut, which is big bucks and stuff like that. Now he's on really big money anyway with that new contract that they gave him. But it'd be kind of very strange, wouldn't it, to see Man United without David De Gea in goals? That would be kind of a strange one. Lionel Messi is set to leave PSG this summer, with Barcelona eyeing a sensational deal. And this is what I just spoke about earlier with Aubameyang and with Firmino and all. Like, how are Barcelona going to come up with a sensational deal to bring back Lionel Messi to Barcelona when they had to get him out there before they went busting out of business? Like, it just beggars belief. I can't understand it. I just don't know how. I think we look at the finances at Chelsea and the way Bowley has gone about it, and we stare into that and we kind of go, wow. We look at the finances of other clubs like Man City and stuff like that and we go, wow. But Barcelona's different level to all these, isn't it? Like they literally come out saying they're broke as a convict, don't have a washer. La Liga's moving in on them and stuff like that. The next minute they're just buying players. They couldn't. How long did it take them to register signings even last summer and stuff like that? And now this stuff coming out, Messi's going to leave PSG in the summer with Barcelona eyeing a sensational deal. Yeah, interesting. Eno's back in. Either way, pay cut or not, he still would have the money. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're talking Ian. I think his contract is about 350 grand a week, and they're talking about bringing him down to about 250. I think they want to have a policy in there that the wages for most players is capped at 250, so they don't go beyond that. But it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Interesting one. This came out. Eric Ten Hag hasn't been able to name his first choice midfield of Bruno, Christian Eriksen, and Casemiro. Only 7 times this calendar year has he been able to do it. And out of the 7 times he's done that, United have won 6 and drawn 1. It's an interesting stat, that, isn't it? Very, very interesting when you think how long they've lost Eriksen. Bruno was kind of been leading the line there practically on his own in midfield. And obviously Casemiro, we know the troubles that are there with the sending offs and stuff like that and all, which were at times ridiculous. But that's a very interesting stat. Now, when he is named his first choice midfield of Bruno, Eriksen and Casemiro, 7 times this calendar year, they've had 6 wins and 1 draw. Very, very interesting. Zinedine Zidane sounds like he's ready to return back to management. He's someone I'd love to see managing in the Premier League. I don't think we'll ever see it. He doesn't have any desire, apparently, to work in England, apparently, so, which is very, very sad. But apparently he might be going back to his former club, Juventus. That's the talk, which will be very, very interesting. But yeah, what did we make of that story the other day? Juventus as well, getting the 15 points back and shooting back up into the Champions League spots, putting the pressure on Inter and AC with this semi-final coming up, this all-Italian one. Very, very interesting. But it was interesting the way they overturned the 15 points from that decision. But yeah, Paratici's appeal was thrown out and stuff like that. Now maybe they're related to different things and stuff like that. I'm not too sure. I haven't looked into it in any depth, but it's something I would like to look into, because it's that Juventus one. Like, it's a madness, isn't it? When you look at the financial situation and you look at City, you look at Chelsea, you look at Newcastle when it was bought over and this stuff. You look at PSG, you look at Barcelona, and you look at Juventus. the finances in football at the moment are an absolute madness the way they do it. So very, very interesting. And I think what I might do in the summer when we have some downtime and we're not following the football weekly with all the reviews and stuff like that, I might have a look into some of the finances of these clubs and see can we just make any head or tail of it, because it's absolutely crazy. But it's very, very interesting when you delve down into it. Very, very interesting. Hi, Alexandra. Enjoy your brew. Big up, Redboard. Absolutely. Let us know as well, lads. Always when I'm on the chat in Jack's show, Anfield Road TV, check it out. Great channel and stuff like that. He always goes for a brew at half time and the watch alongs and stuff like that. And I always ask, it's a question I ask him every week, what's the biscuit of choice? So if you're having a brew, folks, let us know in the comments. What's your biscuit of choice? What's your go-to biscuit when you're having a brew? Let us know what your top dog biscuit. Eno's in buy players and then you realise they're shite in the end. Don't forget about the fella with the Jason Donovan hairstyle. That fella with the Jason Donovan hairstyle, Eno, right, has an 8-year contract. I think he's on about 180 grand a week or something like that. And he was bought for 82 million. So he can sit there for 8 years and he don't have to go anywhere and they have to pay him. And it doesn't matter whether you're good, bad, or indifferent. What a waste. I don't know. Maybe if they stabilise things. I mean, we've seen some really good play from stuff like that, and Arsenal wanted them as well. So I think there's a good player there. But there's a lot of really, really good players at Chelsea at the moment that just, for one reason or another, they're not clicking. Confidence is down. It's just not working. And obviously, having that turnover of managers and all the other shit being flung at them with Bowley and all that kind of stuff and all, it's just made for a really, really difficult season for Chelsea. But there's some really good footballers there. Absolutely. Redbird is in. He goes for a brew with a ginger bicky. Lovely jubbly. Yeah, ginger. Nice. I like that. The ginger. Dare I say ginger nuts? Are we allowed to say that? Are they still ginger nuts or are they just called ginger biscuits now? I'm not too sure. Chelsea. Interesting one coming out as well. Newcastle apparently are confident of landing Arsenal's Kieran Tierney, with Eddie Howe on the lookout for a new left back. Let us know your thoughts on that in the chat, folks. Kieran Tierney to Newcastle. Be mad for Arsenal to let him go, wouldn't they? Until they figure out the whole Zinchenko kind of situation of that. But leave them really exposed. Tierney's a real good footballer. The problem with him is figuring out how to keep him fit and getting more games out of him. But that would be mad. That would be a great signing for Newcastle, I have to say. Absolutely. Redbird, Saliba being out for Arsenal will cost them the league. Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? Came out the other night as well? It's probably the worst performance I've seen from Thomas Partey as well. Like, if you're in there in that midfield, and Granit Xhaka as well is, he's a big loss as well. He's been huge for them this year as well. So I think that's a real problem for them, that midfield dynamic. I mean, would you be surprised if Partey was dropped on Wednesday and Jorginho went in? Because that performance against Southampton was as bad as it gets. Redboard's in, old school like me. It's a ginger nut. It sure is a ginger nut, isn't it? Absolutely. Also, more news coming out from Chelsea. Just for you, Morris. I told you I'd keep the Chelsea news coming. Chelsea could axe up to 8 players to stay in line with financial fair play rules, including Christian Pulisic, Ziyech, Koulibaly, Mason Mount, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Conor Gallagher, Romelu Lukaku, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang could all be sold after a difficult campaign. It's no doubt about it. Yeah, Redbird is in saying yes, Partey was poor. Yeah, he was really poor doing it. For a guy who normally performs at a very high level, he was shocking the other night. But what do we make of this situation at Chelsea at the moment, folks? I mean, it looks like they have to get a bunch of players out the door. It looks like people know they have to get a bunch of players out the door because of FFP. So they might not get the money that they want for them as well. They're valuing these players are quite high. If you look at the talk that was going around about Mason Mount was 60 million. He's 1 year left on his contract. Ridiculous money. But what do we make of that? And also the news that came out as well, that the talk is because of not getting European football, especially the Champions League, that I think they were saying, is it 19 players or something like that are in line for a pay cut or something like that, up to 30% pay cut because of not qualifying for the Champions League. Eno's in. He likes Aldi biscuits, mug of coffee, and a spoon of syrup. There's a combination. That's an interesting combination. Now, I have to ask you: are we going chocolate Odie or are we going plain Odie? And Redbird, that's a new one on me, Ian. Yeah, absolutely. Back to the drawing board, my friends. Yeah, absolutely back to the drawing boards. Um, we spoke about Poch. What do you make of this whole thing with Poch? This lad was thrown under a barrel and vilified by Chelsea fans and London clubs and all that when he was at Spurs and all this kind of thing. Went to PSG, kind of struggled there, especially the first season. I think Lille won the league and PSG were second. Managed to turn that around, then was sent out the door. Has been kind of floating around now for a while, flirting with kind of jobs that came up back in the Premier League. Looks like he wants to come back to the Premier League. The Spurs job is available. Probably doesn't fancy going back by the looks of things. But it looks like he's favourite now for the Chelsea job. And it looks like I was reading an article today about Chelsea players being excited at the opportunity of Poch coming in as the manager. And I was there going, what is this nonsense? Unbelievable. Now, having said that, I mean, obviously Nagelsmann was kind of taken out of the loop. Luis Enrique was taken out of the loop. Because so I think when I looked at the bet there on Friday, it was Poch was the hot favourite, and then Vincent Kompany was second favourite. So that's where the list was at. And I know they're looking at the lad up in Scotland as well, is it? The lad at Celtic, what's his name? Postecoglou or something, isn't it? Something like that. So they're looking at him as well. But God, imagine Maurizio Pochettino managing Chelsea, and then Nagelsmann potentially going into Spurs. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Absolutely. Um, both. Oh, I like it. Both. Yeah. So the plain and the chocolate. Uh, we also got news that it looks like Roberto Firmino might be on his way to Barcelona. I think he'd be a great signing for them. I think Roberto Firmino will be an absolute star in the league. Even at this stage, I think he has still plenty to offer. And I know Liverpool did look at last ditch to try and keep him, that he might be able to turn his head. But I think he's resided to trying something different, both culturally and on the pitch. But we wish him well. Obviously, if Bobby does go, he's been an absolute legend and servant for the club, and deserves to go to a big club like Barcelona. Deserves a big move, not to go after a smaller move and stuff like that. Still has plenty to offer, both as a starter and a squad player. If you think about it, up till getting injured this season, he was having a fantastic season for Liverpool, one of his better seasons. And then we were reading our final topic for tonight, guys, was Eric Ten Hag is preparing to oversee a big clear out at Manchester United this summer with the futures of up to 15 players in doubt. 15 players in doubt. Must be planning on bringing in a few as well. But that's going to be interesting. I'm going to be working on that T-bar mustache. It's there or thereabouts, isn't it? No work to be done on it. Just sit back and enjoy it. But that's being kind of your news talk, folks. They're being behind the headlines that sort of stuck out and stuff like that. Interesting, of course, as always. Football never lets us down. Big week coming up, massive week coming up in the Premier League. As I said, hit the subscribe and bell notification to know when we go live. Of course, drop a like on the video as well. We will be back on tomorrow, 7 o'clock. West Ham versus Liverpool preview, and then we'll also be back at 8 o'clock on Dynamo's Dozen channel, giving you the latest weekly dose of pro wrestling. Some interesting stuff there if pro wrestling is your thing. I will be back then on Wednesday night for a match reaction after the West Ham Liverpool game. Thursday we'll be back. Thursday tier talk with me and Dazzler, looking into the weekend's football, and we'll be bringing you all our bets and tips, and of course talking about more of this stuff and what's unfolding. I'm sure we'll have our weekly dose and update on Chelsea for Darren and for Morris in the chat and stuff like that. But of course, folks, check out all the channels in the chat as well. I seen Ted in there and all as well. So check out all the channels. Make sure you subscribe and support and keep them growing and stuff like that. Morris's channel is in there as well. He's doing unbelievable interviews week in, week out, really putting in the grind like ourselves. But until next time, folks, have a real safe week. Enjoy the football. Don't let it ruin your life if it goes the wrong way. Let's see what happens with this title race, top four, and relegation battle. I don't remember a season, even though my own team, Liverpool, aren't really doing the business, but I don't remember a season when so much was still up for grabs on so many levels. and just week after week producing some unbelievable stuff. What a time to be a football fan. Unbelievable. Until next time, folks, have a safe week. As I said, subscribe, bell notification button, like on the video, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Cheers, folks.